Picture this. You're sitting in a mid-morning strategy meeting.
Oh, yeah, I can picture it already.
Yeah, the fluorescent lights are humming, the air is that slightly stale office air, and someone at the front of the room, probably a VP or maybe an external consultant, is pointing to this remarkably crowded slide.
Usually with way too many charts on.
Exactly. And they are saying with total conviction that the team needs to, leverage cross-functional synergies to capture emerging white space opportunities.
A classic.
Right. And you're sitting there nodding along, maybe jotting down a fake note to look engaged. But in the back of your mind, a little voice is just screaming, is any of this actually real?
Like, does a single person in this room know what we're talking about right now?
Yes. It is a universally recognizable feeling. That creeping suspicion that the emperor not only has no clothes, but that everyone at the table is just intensely, passionately debating the thread count of his invisible suit.
You really do sit there wondering if you are the only one who has completely lost their grip on reality.
Totally. Well, today, our mission is to figure out why that happens, why it is so deeply damaging, and most importantly, how to stop it. We are taking a deep dive into a profoundly satisfying and, honestly, incredibly validating academic paper.
It really is validating to read.
It is. It's by Dr. Jonathan H. Westover, and it's titled Confronting Organizational Indifference to Truth, the C.R.A.P. Strategic Framework.
Such a great title.
Right. Our goal today is to arm you with the psychological and structural tools to spot, survive, and basically systematically eliminate workplace bullshit. And we are using the strict academic definition of that word today.
We really are. We are going to explore how top-tier organizations like Amazon, SpaceX, and Microsoft are actively waging war on all this corporate fluff.
But before we can get to the solutions, we have to deeply understand the threat itself, right?
Exactly. Because the most dangerous person in your office isn't the one who lies to you. It's the one who simply does not care about the truth at all.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because that distinction between a liar and a bullshitter, that completely shifted my perspective.
It's a massive shift in how you view office dynamics.
It is. When we get frustrated by corporate jargon or empty promises, we naturally assume someone is actively deceiving us, right? But Dr. Westover's paper, which draws on the philosopher Harry Frankfurt, argues that lying and bullshitting are two fundamentally different species of communication.
Yeah, and understanding that difference is really step one in diagnosing the sickness in an organization. Like, think about the actual mechanics of a lie.
Okay.
If a leader stands up in front of the company and says, there will be no layoffs this quarter, while secretly holding a spreadsheet of the people they are about to fire, that is a lie.
Right, a very clear deception.
Exactly. The liar knows exactly what the truth is, and they are deploying energy to actively lead you away from it. So they are essentially tethered to reality by their need to conceal it.
The best way I can visualize this, and this helps me a lot, is that a liar is kind of like a counterfeit artist.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, like they know exactly what real money looks like. They have to study the truth, the watermarks, the serial numbers, and they try to meticulously copy it so you just don't notice the difference.
Right, it takes an enormous amount of effort.
Exactly. And they are inherently constrained by the truth they are trying to fake. But a bullshitter, they are just playing Monopoly.
Yes.
They are just throwing handfuls of colorful paper money at you, loudly claiming it's real currency. They have total freedom because they aren't trying to copy reality at all. They just don't care what the truth is, as long as you take the money.
What's fascinating here is how that exact lack of constraint makes this such a devastating political tool within an organization.
How do you mean?
Well, from a purely strategic standpoint, if you are a liar, your message has to carefully navigate around the known facts. It is a defensive posture.
Right, you have to remember your lies.
Exactly. But if you are entirely indifferent to the truth, you are operating on offense. You are completely free to devise the maximally persuasive message to just advance your personal agenda.
Because you don't have to worry about evidence or data or even logical adherence.
Nope. You just say whatever sounds most impressive in the moment to get what you want.
Like, we're going to leverage cross-functional synergies. It sounds phenomenal. Who wouldn't want to leverage a synergy?
Right. It sounds great until you try to actually do it. And we should clarify the scope of our deep dive here. We are talking strictly about professional organizational contexts.
Right. Work stuff.
Yeah. The paper differentiates this destructive force from harmless, what called artisanal bullshit that we use to kind of lubricate social interactions.
Oh, artisanal bullshit. Like at a dinner party.
Exactly. Spinning a slightly exaggerated story at a dinner party to make your friends laugh, that's just a bonding mechanism. But applying that same indifference to truth to a company's strategic direction or a safety protocol or a hiring decision, that introduces a literal toxin into the company's bloodstream.
Well, if it is a toxin, and it operates so differently from a lie, why is it literally everywhere? I mean, why has it become the absolute default language of so many of our daily work lives?
That is the big question. And the paper breaks down a perfect storm of conditions that breed this phenomenon. It traces back to 3 core drivers.
Okay, make the first one.
The first is what we might call forced expertise. Organizations constantly structurally force people to talk about things they simply do not understand.
Oh man, think about the annual performance review process.
The absolute worst.
It is. A middle manager is suddenly required to evaluate like 15 different direct reports across 20 totally arbitrary competency dimensions.
And that manager has no deep understanding of, quote, synergistic cross-platform agility.
None at all, but they are forced to evaluate it anyway.
Right. And the exact same thing happens in cross-functional committees. You bring together specialists from IT, marketing, HR, and everyone is suddenly expected to have an opinion on a highly technical software migration.
Even though marketing knows nothing about the back-end architecture.
Exactly. But humans are social creatures, we want to contribute. And looking ignorant in a meeting feels like a huge career risk.
So the organizational pressure to provide an opinion just heavily outweighs the individual's actual knowledge.
Which means they string together buzzwords to just fill the air.
They start throwing the monopoly money.
Yes. And the second driver is a systemic lack of accountability, which is usually protected by what the paper calls a jargon shield.
A jargon shield, I like that.
It's super common when people use dense, impenetrable technical language. It creates this asymmetry of information. It becomes practically impossible for a non-expert to actually falsify the claim.
Right. Like if someone claims they are optimizing the embedded value of our capital structure, it takes a tremendous amount of courage for you to raise your hand and say, I think that is false.
Because you aren't entirely sure what was just said, so the jargon completely insulates the speaker from being challenged.
Wow, yeah. That makes so much sense. What's the third driver?
The third driver is crisis and uncertainty.
Wait, let me play devil's advocate for a second. You would think that in a crisis, a company would drop all the fluff and just desperately demand hard facts to survive.
Yeah, you would think so, but history shows the exact opposite. The text highlights catastrophic organizational failures, like Enron or the BP Deepwater Horizon oil spill.
Oh, wow, those are major.
Very major. And when the sky is falling and a crisis hits, accurate information is usually incredibly scarce.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, so the pressure on leaders to respond immediately and project authority is just immense. In a vacuum of information, leaders often substitute action for accuracy.
So impression management becomes a literal survival reflex.
Exactly. They prioritize looking like they are in control over waiting for verified data. They make things up on the fly, and then a cascade of truth and difference just floods down through the entire organization.
But I can hear someone arguing that, some of this is just harmless marketing fluff, the classic fake it till you make it approach to business.
Right? A lot of people defend it that way.
Yeah, like projecting confidence so the team feels secure or so investors stay on board.
But the research strongly argues that it is never harmless. The paper points to the concept of persuasive puffery and brings in David Graeber's famous work on bullshit jobs.
Oh, I've heard of that book.
It's fascinating. Graeber examined roles like, say, a director of strategic recruitment, positions where the person holding the job basically struggles to articulate the actual value or function of their own existence.
So in those spaces, the fluff isn't just a temporary marketing tactic.
No, it structurally replaces actual expertise. Impression management becomes the entirety of the job description. And the fallout from this substitution is severe.
Right, so we are moving from the annoyance of bad vocabulary to measurable actual organizational damage.
Exactly.
The paper actually explores the concept of casual benchmarking here. This is where organizations make massive, multi-million-dollar strategic decisions based on completely unexamined assumptions.
Oh, I see this all the time.
Right. A company might say, hey, Google has open plan offices, so we need to rip down all our walls to become innovative.
Without any proof that walls were the problem.
Yes. They copy the superficial aesthetic of a successful company without any evidence that it fits their specific operational needs.
And that blind imitation leads directly to what organizational theorist Andre Spicer calls the bullshit spiral.
The bullshit spiral. That sounds bleak.
It is a devastating cycle for a company's learning capacity. Say a project fails because it was based on that casual benchmarking rather than evidence.
Okay.
Instead of an honest postmortem to uncover the actual failure, the organization conducts a face-saving review. They just pump that review full of more jargon to obscure the incompetence.
Which means the learning mechanism of the company is entirely broken.
And completely broken. And eventually, this environment starts to actively select for the wrong types of leaders.
It creates an evolutionary advantage for the empty suits.
That's exactly it. The organization elevates individuals who are incredibly skilled at rhetoric, managing up, and impression management, but they are completely lacking in substantive technical knowledge.
And the genuine experts, the people who are obsessed with the boring, verifiable facts, they get sidelined.
Yep, just because they don't speak the flashy language of the empty suits.
Think about what it feels like to sit in that environment every single day for you as an employee. Reading this section of the paper felt deeply validating regarding why a string of bad meetings leaves you feeling literally physically exhausted.
Oh, because you are dealing with chronic cognitive dissonance.
Exactly. If you are someone who values truth, integrity, and just doing good work, and your daily organizational reality routinely contradicts evident facts, your brain is in a constant state of friction.
It's exhausting. You are forced to choose between speaking up, which risks your career by threatening the empty suits, or remaining silent, which feels like a terrible betrayal of your own professional expertise.
And over time, that friction erodes all foundational trust.
It completely destroys psychological safety. If you cannot trust leadership's basic grip on reality, you are not going to take creative risks.
You're definitely not going to innovate.
No. And you certainly are not going to raise your hand and admit when you've made an honest mistake, because the whole environment just punishes truth.
So what does this all mean? The text brings in this brilliant framework from Albert Hirschman. He argues that when employees face negative workplace conditions, they essentially have 4 options.
4 very distinct paths.
Right. Exit, voice, loyalty, or neglect. You can quit the company. You can use your voice and speak up. You can drink the Kool-Aid, be loyal, and join in. Or you choose and collect. And this is where the epidemic gets incredibly dark.
Neglect is perhaps the most insidious response for an organization. When the fluff is just too thick to cut through and using your voice feels professionally dangerous, employees just quietly disengage.
They withdraw their discretionary effort.
Yeah. They are physically sitting in the meeting room, but they are psychologically completely absent.
It is the literal academic definition of quiet quitting.
It really is. And the paper notes this neglect can even escalate into what they call destructive deviance.
Destructive deviance. That sounds like a crime.
It often is. This includes active sabotage, theft, or strategic incompetence. The employee rationalizes this behavior by basically telling themselves, well, the whole system is fundamentally dishonest anyway.
Right. They are paying me in monopoly money, metaphorically speaking, so why should I play by the rules?
Exactly. It's a total breakdown of the social contract at work.
Okay, so we have comprehended the nature of the problem, and we recognize the drivers. That covers the C and the R in Dr. Westover's C.R.A.P framework.
Comprehend and recognize.
Yep. Now we need to act and prevent, the A and the P. If shifting the culture is step 1, how do top-tier organizations actually turn the tide?
Well, the first major intervention requires leadership to demand epistemic discipline.
That sounds intense. What does that mean in practice?
It just means a strict, rigorous standard for how we actually know what we claim to know. A prime example from the text is Microsoft's transformation under Satya Nadella.
Oh, the culture shift there was famous.
Yeah, when he took over as CEO, he realized the company had developed this really toxic know-it-all culture. Everyone was terrified of looking unknowledgeable, so everyone projected false confidence and literally made things up.
So he deliberately shifted it to a learn-it-all culture.
He did. He started heavily rewarding intellectual humility.
He actively rewarded people for just saying, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but let's look at the data to find out. By making it psychologically safe to admit uncertainty, he drastically reduced the internal pressure that forces people to generate fluff in the first place.
Okay, but if changing the culture is the starting point, how do you change the physical structure of how decisions are made? Like, so people can't just hide behind a new set of buzzwords.
For that, you implement evidence-based management. The paper points to Amazon as the gold standard for this structural guardrail.
Jeff Bezos famously banned PowerPoint in executive meetings, didn't he?
He did. No more bullet points, no more flashy transition graphics. Instead, Amazon uses a 6-page narrative memo.
6 pages. Just text.
Just text. Because a bullet point is just a disjointed claim. It allows you to breeze past logical gaps.
But if you have to write out your proposal in full sentences, with standard paragraphs, you are forced to actually articulate your causal logic.
Exactly. You have to provide evidence for your claims. The paper points out a really hard truth here, actually. Organizations must start valuing a verifiable expertise over pure egalitarianism.
Ooh, this is a tough pill to swallow. We love the idea of egalitarianism in the modern workplace. We love the mantra that every voice matters.
And diversity of perspective is absolutely vital for a healthy organization. But not every opinion deserves equal weight in decision-making if it lacks evidence.
Right.
If a team is deciding on a structural engineering problem, the engineer's evidence-based assessment simply carries more weight than the marketing director's gut feeling.
Treating all opinions as equally valid, regardless of domain expertise or supporting data, is basically a primary breeding ground for truth and difference.
Exactly.
So if jargon is the armor people wear to hide their lack of knowledge, how do you strip that armor away?
You implement strict language standards. The paper highlights this incredible email Elon Musk sent to the entire staff at SpaceX back in 2010.
Oh, the one with the subject line. Acronyms seriously suck.
That's the one. He argued that made-up acronyms and dense jargon are a massive impediment to communication.
People sit in meetings, they don't know what the acronym means, they don't want to look stupid, so they just sit in silence while bad decisions are made.
Yep. So by banning jargon, you just rip away the shield. The UK government digital service did exactly the same thing, actually.
Wait, really? The UK government?
Yeah, they mandated plain language for all public-facing government websites. They basically banned corporate speak and required the active voice.
I bet people fought that.
Oh, civil servants fought it initially, for sure. They assumed specialized language sounded more professional, but the result was a massive increase in public comprehension.
Because if a strategic claim requires a dictionary of corporate jargon to explain, the claim itself is likely entirely empty.
Bingo.
Okay, let's talk about meetings. Think about your calendar for this week. How many recurring meetings do you have where you are just a body in a chair generating absolutely no value, but feeling pressured to contribute?
Too many, probably.
So how do companies fix the physical gathering spaces themselves?
The text highlights a brilliant tool used by Shopify. They built a meeting cost calculator directly into their internal calendar systems.
That is so passive-aggressive, and I love it.
It's highly effective. It calculates and displays the real-time salary cost of the people sitting in the room.
So this directly neutralizes the forced expertise trap we discussed earlier.
Exactly. When you attach a ticking dollar amount to a gathering, it suddenly becomes very difficult to justify pulling a dozen non-experts into a room just to generate fluff.
And Shopify paired this with a default role, right? A meeting shouldn't exist unless there is a clear agenda.
Yep, clear agenda. And only the people with the necessary expertise or decision-making authority are even invited. So smart. But what happens when the truth is fundamentally terrifying? I mean, the ultimate test of an organization's relationship with reality is when the facts are genuinely bad.
That is the crucible. The intervention here is accountability and whistleblowing. You have to create systems that actively protect the people who call out the emperor's lack of clothes.
The paper brings up the 1982 Johnson & Johnson Tylenol crisis here, right?
Yeah, it's the classic case study. Someone was tampering with Tylenol bottles, resulting in actual fatalities. It was an existential crisis for the entire brand.
But J&J had cultivated a culture that explicitly empowered employees at every level to prioritize the brutal truth over short-term PR impression management.
Right. They pulled the product, took the massive financial hit, and told the public the unvarnished facts.
Which ironically saved the brand in the long run.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is really the ultimate litmus test for any company. Do you reward the person who tells you the uncomfortable truth, or do you promote the person who spins you a comforting fairy tale?
Because if an organization consistently promotes the persuasive talker over the evidence-based truth teller, no amount of plain language policies or meeting calculators will fix the underlying decay.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Workplace bullshit isn't just a pet peeve or a funny Dilbert comic, right? It is a measurable systemic threat to a company's survival and to your own psychological well-being.
It absolutely is.
But by cultivating that learn-it-all mindset, demanding evidence over jargon, and knowing how to structuralize meetings to keep the empty suits at bay, you can navigate and actually improve your reality.
It takes immense courage, though, to ask, what is the evidence for that? In a room full of nodding heads.
It really does. I want to wrap up our analysis by sharing what I think is the most unexpected quote from the source material.
Oh, I know which one you're going to use.
It's so good. Dr. Westover actually quotes Lemmy Kilmister,
the lead singer of the heavy metal band Motorhead.
Yes. Lemmy said if you show them enough times that their arguments are bullshit, then maybe just once one of them will say, oh, wait a minute, I was wrong.
I love that an academic paper on organizational theory is using Motorhead to highlight the grueling but immense value of truth-seeking.
It is so perfect.
It is a perfect distillation of the struggle. And it leaves us with a final, somewhat provocative thought to kind of mull over, building on the paper's mention of modern communication technology.
Oh, the AI angle.
Yeah, think about it. If workplace bullshit thrives precisely when human beings are pressured to speak confidently about things they do not actually understand.
Which we've established they definitely are.
Right. What happens to our organizations when we start delegating our emails, our narrative memos, and our strategy documents to modern AI tools?
Oh, man.
We are introducing tools that are literally programmed to generate plausible-sounding text without any actual comprehension of the underlying truth.
They don't know what they are saying. They just predict the next likely word.
Exactly. So are we inadvertently building the ultimate bullshit engines, automating the very indifference we are trying to fight?
That is a terrifying thought.
Or will the incoming flood of AI-generated fluff finally force us to put a premium on deep, verifiable human expertise?
I guess time will tell. But the next time you are sitting in that fluorescent lit room and someone starts talking about leveraging synergies to capture white space opportunities, you do not have to just nod along.
You really don't.
You know exactly what kind of game they are playing, and you do not have to accept their monopoly money.